Hello, and welcome to Gay Men Going Deeper, a podcast by the Gay Men's Brotherhood where we talk about personal development, mental health, and sexuality. We are your hosts today. We have Matt Lancidel. He is a counselor and facilitator specializing in healing and empowerment. Reno Johnston is a spiritual, life, love, and business coach. And I am Michael Diorio, a life and wellness coach specializing in sexuality, relationships, and self-confidence. We each have our own private practice, and in this podcast, we're sharing all of our best stuff. And today we are talking about courting. I didn't say that properly. Courting. We're offering a modern take on an old school tradition. So some of the topics we'll be covering today are: how does courting differ from dating? What are some advantages of courting over dating or in dating? And how can we apply this idea in the age of dating apps? And maybe what are some practical tips for incorporating courtship into your life? So we'll be covering quite a few topics on this. We're basically covering this after our episode 2 weeks ago on dating or first dates. So if you haven't listened to that, I recommend you go listen to it. It's not a part 2 by any means, but if you listen to that one first, it'll give you a little bit of a head start on this. Okay, so before we jump in, a couple of reminders here. We will be continuing this discussion on the last Thursday of the month in the Gay Men's Brotherhood sharing circles. We also have our connection circles on the second Thursday of the month, which are smaller, more intimate rooms where you can discuss the topics of the podcast with other members of our community. If you're interested in joining us, go to gaymensbrotherhood.com on our events section to register. And if you don't have Facebook, that's okay. Just get on our email list and we'll email you all the information you need before the event. Reminder that this podcast and YouTube channel are listener and viewer supported. So if you enjoy what we're creating here, you can support us by making a donation to the show using the link in the show notes. You could also subscribe to get early access to episodes on Apple Podcasts. All of your support helps us to continue making content and supporting the community. So we thank you so much in advance. And finally, if you're looking to accelerate your personal development journey, please check out our coaching collection. It includes 2 courses: Healing Your Shame, Building Better Relationships, plus over 45 premium personal development coaching videos on topics such as body positivity, relationships, self-confidence, and community. So head over to gaymengoingdeeper.com for more info. And if you're new here, please take the time now to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. We release episodes every Thursday. So by clicking that little bell icon, you get notified when there is a new episode. If you're listening to us on a podcast platform, please subscribe and leave us a review and 5-star rating. All of this helps us to get into the ears and eyes of people who need us. All right, let's talk about courting. So this you may have heard as an old school term. It kind of is an old school term. It's really, the Google definition is getting to know someone with the intention of marrying them. Often these days, courting has been replaced by the word dating. So there are some similarities, but there are some differences. So right now, for our intro, I kind of want to go through what the differences are, just to give you guys an idea for how they can be different and how it's not quite the same as dating, but you can incorporate courting practices in dating. Okay, so there are 4 different things here. In dating, it's generally more casual. There's not that many rules, and it's not necessarily about having the goal of a long-term commitment or marriage by any means. In courting, it's more intentional to finding a long-term life partner. You can call it marriage, but it doesn't have to be marriage. There's just more intention of a long-term relationship there. In dating, you're really just getting to know each other, enjoying each other's company. It can be 1 date if you want it to be. It could be 5, 6, 7, 10 dates if you want it to be. There's really not a lot of structure there. In courting, that period lasts a bit longer because there's more emphasis on really getting to know each other and your shared beliefs, getting to know each other's values, your life goals, and really determining that long-term compatibility. So a courting process generally lasts longer than dating. In dating, it's common to date multiple people at once. If you want, you can juggle, you can date 1 guy, you can date 3 guys, 4. That's pretty common and normal. In a courting situation, traditionally, the expectation is that you're exclusive and that both people are focusing on each other during that phase. You're just focusing on each other and getting to know each other. Other people tend to cloud your judgment. And then finally, in a dating, things can move fast and furious, or you can keep it slow and steady. There's really no objective. So you can go on a date with somebody simply because you know you want to hook up with them at the end, and that's fine. In courting, again, you move more slowly and with more intention towards that ultimate goal of something long term. It doesn't have to be marriage again, it could just be anything long term. So, yes, this term is pretty old school. And personally, there are some things I really love about this concept of courtship, courting, especially as I'm older now and re-entered the dating scene in my 40s. My values and approach has certainly changed in some ways than how I dated in my 20s and 30s. And one of the things that I thought, and you might be thinking, is this is so unrealistic in the gay community. How can courting possibly work in this digital age of dating apps? Like, courting wasn't, dating apps weren't a thing when courting was commonplace back in the old school days. How does it work now? And then also for the gays and gay culture, we live or we date in a culture where instant gratification, sex, hookups, casual sex is very normalized, and that's okay. So where is there space for courting there? And I get it. I felt the same way. I still do think the same thing. And as someone who uses dating apps regularly, and as someone who does enjoy instant gratification from time to time, I'm here to tell you that yes, there is a place for courting and some of these practices within your approach to dating. And so that's what we're going to cover here today. I want to make it clear that it's not like one or the other. You can have, I like to take a little bit of the practices that I've learned about courting and put them in practice in my dating life. And so I think what we want to offer here today is just talking about that and what that may look like. So let's jump in. First question we have is, what are some of the advantages of courting? And today we're going to start with Matt.
Yeah, I feel like I'm having kind of a dual experience here because I understand that the gay community does tend to fall more towards like casual dating and hookup culture and like instant gratification. And I feel like I have outgrown that. Like that was more for me in my 20s. I did a lot of that in my 20s and even like maybe halfway into my 30s. Maybe the first few years. So probably the last 5 years, I've really been more drawn towards um, well, dating for me is flow exploration until I find somebody that I want to connect with. Once I find somebody that I want to connect with, I want to pair off with that person. And that's when I would say the courting process would begin. So it's when I've committed to that person, like to be like, okay, we're gonna be exclusive with each other. Now court me. Right? Like that's how I would feel because unless you know somebody well enough, I don't think it's smart to court them, right? Because courting means I'm going to focus primarily on you. This is just my perspective of it. I think from my perspective, it's more of a monogamous thing to court somebody. It's like you're going to be my primary focus. There's special attention that's being given to this person. There's consistent expressions of interest occurring, and that's what I really love about it because I am more of a monogamous person, and I like that. For me, that's a big part of what creates attraction is safety, consistency, devotion, loyalty to one person, commitment to one person. Like these are things that I really value. And so yeah, and for me, like I think this topic came up because I said that I really want this and I want somebody to court me. And the advantages of that for me is um, I like when somebody expresses interest in me and they show consistent interest in me. It makes me feel valued, makes me feel secure. Um, yeah, there's something about knowing that I'm this person's only focus. In other structures, and I was in an open relationship for 4 years. I've played within different relationship structures, and they were fun at the time. I was in my 20s when I was in an open relationship. But there's something for me that I really like knowing that I'm that person's primary focus when it comes, or only focus, I'll say, when it comes to romance. I think that's something that's really, really special. And I like being pursued. I am not a big pursuer. I like being pursued, and yeah, something about that. And I think for me, when the advantages of courting is, like let's say we date for a little bit, we get to know a bit about each other, and then there's this process of like, okay, I'm going to court you, I'm going to like bring you into my world, and we're going to get married or have kids or whatever it is. Um, it's a slow down process. And as a demisexual, a sapiosexual, like when things are slowed down and we find the meaningfulness in things, that's what really draws me in. And then it allows there to be a prioritization of like mental and emotional connection within this courtship. So yeah, that would be my best answer. Yeah. I don't like this notion though, like because where I think you said traditionally it's meant to for marriage, and this thing, so it sounds like it's very much like a heterosexual concept, moving towards marriage, but I don't think it necessarily has to be moving towards marriage or kids or anything. It can just be that I'm going to prioritize you, and I want to encapsulate you into my world. There's this feeling of like being like courting is like being like hugged. It feels like it would be like a big hug or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like to me, it's like a long-term commitment, whatever you want to call it. It could be marriage if you want,
Yeah.
but it's like you're my guy.
Yeah.
And I want you to be my guy in the long run. And then let's take that process to make it happen. It's kind of how I imagine it.
Yeah. And there's something so nice about that when somebody's like, you're the person I've been looking for. Like I want you, right? And like
Yeah.
their focus is on you. It's like a really beautiful thing. And then I know I've taught this before, the attachment, the 5 stages of attachment, but there's the courting process, I think is that, right? It's like the getting to know someone, knowing that you can trust them, that you can rely on them, and that you can commit to them. So I think by the time you get to commitment, the courtship is the knowing, the trusting, and the relying, right? So it's that
Yeah,
process of building those things. Yeah.
totally.
Mhm.
Marina, what about you? What are the advantages, in your opinion?
Hmm. So there are three F's that come up for me. Filter, flavor, and flow. So, and this works in either direction, like whether I'm courting or being courted. What is revealed is like, well, first of all, courtship becomes a filter, right? Like the benefits of courtship are that it's a filter for whether or not like we're a match, whether or not we're a fit, right? So I think that is an obvious benefit. Then there's flavor. And what I mean by that is when I'm engaged in courtship, um, I'm getting a sense of, you're getting a sense of like what sort of my flavor is, my unique flavor, my unique style. And how I navigate, how I move when my attention is focused on something, when I am moved to create something or bring something into realization. Um, and then the last piece is around flow. And that's really just like for me, that's really just about how a person flows within the act of courtship, right? Are they like really rigid? Are they really, kind of awkward about it? Or, is there a relaxedness and an authenticity, a sort of flow about how they're moving, right? And yeah, I mean, you can see this in nature. It's like when mating happens, right? There's that whole like initial courtship process, right? And I have this vision of like two birds, and there's like the bird that's trying to woo the other one. And it's like if the one who's trying to court the other one is, like, I don't know, dancing with two left feet or something, or like they're just not like they're just not performing well, then it's like, see you later, you know? So I think we're similar to animals in that regard in some ways. Um, I would say some others that I listed were like slowing down to speed up, right? So when in the courtship process, it's like there's an opportunity to really slow down and really connect and get really focused and get really intentional.
Hmm.
And what that gives way to is depth and breadth,
Hmm.
which I think right now more than ever, we could all probably use more of, um, especially with the sort of, depending the shallowness our interactions on social media and technology and in our day-to-day, right? Our attention spans are just shot. And so I think courtship, while old-fashioned, so to speak, or old school, invites us to come back to this place of really valuing and honoring depth and breadth of connection, right? And then I think some other benefits are like decision, commitment, and consistency, which I think were mentioned previously. You know, I want to look at the question one more time just to make sure. Yeah, exactly. So it's like you're making a decision. You at this point you've slowed down, you're deepening, there's breadth, and then you're making a decision, you're making a commitment to consistently engage and interact with one particular point of focus. That can feel really good for the quarter, and it can feel really, if that's even a word, and that can feel
I love
really
it.
good for the person, the courtee, the person on the receiving end, It's like it's not like focus isn't the worst thing in the world, It's like it can be really, really sexy and attractive to like set your sights on something and focus your energy on that and growing it and evolving it and being on the receiving end of that. If you've ever been on the receiving end of that, or even the other end of it, can just be a really beautiful, powerful experience. So I would say, like, don't be afraid to focus, don't be afraid to focus. Don't be afraid to slow down. And then I think that, I guess one of the last things I'll say is getting a sense of what you prioritize in your life. So throughout the courtship process, one of the valuable things that's revealed is like what you prioritize, what the courter and the courtee prioritize in their lives. And I think it's really important to have time and space and to take time and space to really get clear about that. So if I'm being courted, I'm also, as I said in our last episode, you're not just being interviewed, you're also interviewing. Like, it's a level playing field. Much as I'm looking for a fit, much as you're looking for a fit, so am I. And I think embodying that energy levels the playing field. And so, I'm getting a sense of what you prioritize in your life. You're getting a sense of what I prioritize in my life. And so it really creates space for us to be very clear about alignment, and whether it's there or not. Because the reality is, your life is precious, and who you choose to spend your time with is precious, and where you choose to invest your energy is precious. And so courtship, I think, can be advantageous in discerning, whether it's a fit or not. So yeah, but it requires patience, because we're just like click, click, scroll, swipe, do. It's like, take a breath,
Yeah.
slow down.
I love that, Rito. That is the best sales job I've heard on courtship, like, ever. Like, you nailed it. That's exactly it. Yeah, I love it. I love everything you said there. The part about, the focus on what did you say? The depth and the breadth of the connection. That's it for me. Like, that really is the core for me, the core advantage. And yeah, at the very end there, you had talked about, swipe, 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 swipe. How quickly, and I'm guilty of this, and I've seen other people do it. Literally, it's like it's so fast.
Yeah.
And for me, the biggest advantage that I find, and you guys know that I talk fast, I think fast, I act fast. I'm just a fast guy in general. But what this has done for me is it has exactly what you said. It has kind of helped me slow the F down, which just feels nice. And like, it's just this exhale when it comes to dating and meeting people and learning about people. So that slowness for me, I certainly know that it feels good for me. And when I see others and how they approach dating, I think that collectively we could all slow down just a little bit and be a little bit more intentional. In that slowness, everything Reno said, right? In that slowness, you have so much more opportunity to go deeper, to be intentional, to pause. Like, there's no rush here. Slowing it down really does help, especially in our culture where we have become so fast in everything. And everything's very disposable as well when it comes to dating, at least where I live here. Like if one guy doesn't work, there's always another one. And that culture of, oh, there's something better, there's something more, I
Yeah.
think doesn't serve the courting process. And actually maybe it does now that I'm saying it, because maybe as you slow down and really take that time to get to know somebody, then you might not be as likely to swipe them away at the first sign of, oh, they have this one little flaw, which I think a lot of people do out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been the big advantage for me. Go ahead, Reno.
Something that I've noticed is we have so many I worked with a client at one point. I was working closely with a client doing sober companion work. And I remember one time he said to me, I feel like I don't have any freedom. And I said, no, 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 my friend. Your problem is that you have too much freedom. That's your problem.
Mm.
And I think that what I see currently in this digital era is that like there are too many options. We are overloaded, overwhelmed with options. Like literally, you pick up this phone and there's like these little squares and there's just heads and profiles and all of them. And you're just, it's like, I mean, I think it's fair to say that that has an impact on us.
Yeah.
And so, now more than ever, discernment and really like slowing down and maybe even taking a break from some of that stuff just to like connect to the real world and really spend a bit of time. Because one thing I'll say is the moment I deleted the apps, and I'm not saying delete the apps, that's not what I'm saying, but the moment I deleted the apps and I just started engaging in real time out in the world, I mean, I met so many people. The connections were more enriching in my experience. And it like I think it made me appreciate the value of relating, of like being here, meeting a person, really like meeting a person and going through the experiential embodied process of like being in the world and being vulnerable and walking over to someone and saying hello and everything that comes with that. I think we're so out of practice in that regard.
Mm.
I sometimes I'm nostalgic for the days when we didn't have this and you had to go and say hey to the person at the bar you were going home alone that
Yeah.
night, or you
Yeah.
were just not with anyone, right? So instead of waiting till the end of the night and then going, okay, like, hey, I saw you over there. Want to
Yeah.
come back to my place? It's like, if you saw me over there, why didn't you just come say what up?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Anyway,
think I think we're officially those old guys now who
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, we
we
sound like that.
are.
We are. But
Bitching
I
about
get it.
Yeah,
technology.
I
yeah,
totally get it. I completely agree with you. And I think because we overlap and like we know what life was like before that digital age, and therefore we have had no choice but to learn the skills to do that, it is an advantage for us. Whereas when I talk to younger guys who maybe didn't ever have that experience, they are literally terrified of talking to somebody in person. They're more likely to want to share and have intimacy, air quotes, talking over Insta
Yeah.
than engaging in a face-to-face conversation, having the same conversation in person.
Yeah. Mm. I
yeah.
think that might be why I like courtship, is because you said something about options, too many options. I don't want to just be an option for somebody.
Yeah.
I'm at an age in my life now where I'm like, I want to be chosen. I don't want to just be like, oh, a square on a grid that it's like, oh, this can be you for this night and this, right? Like, and if that's what floats your boat, like there's no judgment there. It's just for me, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Like I want to be chosen. And I think technology has really made it this thing where I think a lot of people don't want to commit because something better might come along, right? If you're always constantly looking at profile grids with like 20 guys, 30 guys, 100 guys on them, there's this notion that people are disposable and we can find this, right? I don't know. There's something
Yeah.
about that it just rubs me the wrong way. And the part of me that really wants to, the hopeful romantic in me that wants to be chosen, I want to feel special. I don't want to just be a face on a grid. You know what I mean? So I'm the same as you, Reno. I deleted the apps. I haven't had Grindr, Scruff for almost 10 years now, but even Tinder, just swapping out platonic for or romantic for platonic. I'm no longer looking at it through that lens. So it's helping me see that I want that as well. You know, like, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and like tune into, I mean, pay attention to your body. Like I just thought of, we lived in the age of Blockbuster video. I don't know if y'all remember Blockbuster, right? But
Yeah.
like, you know, and
Rogers.
I'm thinking about like we like to pay attention to your body and notice how you feel somatically when you're on Grinder or these apps and you're scrolling. Like really slow down and tune in and notice how you feel because you know, like there's this sort of anxiety and overwhelm that comes from too many options. I think like now we have Netflix. You know how many times I've been on Netflix or like someone's probably been on Netflix and been like, there's nothing to watch. I'm like, what do you mean there's nothing to watch? Are you kidding? There's options, so many options. It's the same thing with Grindr and dating. It's like, oh, there's nobody out there. There's everybody out there. What do
Yeah.
you mean? You know, but I think if we didn't have all that and someone said you can watch Eat, Pray, Love, or you can watch fucking Terminator, pick one. You're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm vibing with Terminator tonight. It's like, okay, great, we're watching Terminator. And you would watch it and you just enjoy it and it'd be awesome. But if someone just put out this whole, you know, it's like, oh, okay, here's like a dozen movies. You're like, oh my God, which one? Which one?
Like
Right?
100
Oh, I
movies.
feel the anxiousness in my body just thinking about that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
They give us such limited opportunity too on like Scruff, Grinder, these things to showcase ourselves so people can actually see us as more than human, right? Like I know there's
Ah,
spot that you can put more, but a lot of it it's like stats or into this or bear, otter, this. It's like we're all being pigeonholed into these little categories. It's like we're cattle at an auction or something like that, you know, like it's like I don't know, there's just something about that and it makes it easy. It's just we're starting to view each other through this lens of like this limited description, whereas I find when you're meeting somebody in person, like you're getting the energetic imprint, you're getting like, you know, to see how they move and how they interact with people. You get there's more there. And
Yeah.
I find like I don't know, I'm feeling really down on like just all the technology lately. Like I want more in-person opportunities to connect. So
You know
yeah.
what else? I have something else to add to that is how we treat each other in person versus online. So in those spaces, I think when we're meeting up in person, like we would never just like, if someone's talking to you in the middle of a conversation, you would never just ghost them and like walk away mid-conversation, right?
Yeah.
We would never say half the stuff we say to each other online. So I think there's an element along with courtship, and maybe this is old school, something that we've forgotten about is just like human decency,
Yeah.
and how to interact and how to be respectful of others.
Yeah.
That has gone missing as well. It's also kind of been taken over by this very disposable, oh, I can because you're just a screen, I can just say whatever I want and treat you however I'm going to treat you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Question for you guys quickly. Do you, when you're dating, do you date one person at a time, or are you a fan of juggling multiple?
I have a hard time with this, okay? And you might laugh because I do like counseling for a living and I have to remember small details about people, but keep in mind I take notes while I'm working, so it makes it easier. If I'm dating multiple people, I find I mix up facts. I can't remember who said this or who said that. Like it's just, you know, and I find it challenging, but yes, I try and practice early stages of dating what I call like flow exploration. Like you're moving between people, you're really, you know, tasting with like what am I wanting? And especially like after this phase of not dating for a while, I might be like I might be confused about what I want. So I might need to flow explore for a bit to find out what it is that I'm wanting.
Mhm.
But when it comes to like taking it to that next level, like I find it hard. Like I find it hard to date more than one person. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I've done it. It's a bit tricky. Like I do remember there was a period a while back, I was dating three guys and I had sort of met them all like sequentially within I don't know, within like weeks of each other or something like that. And I very quickly became clear who was and wasn't a fit. So it kind of started out like there were three guys there, then there was two, and then there was one. And that probably happened within within a month, I think I had kind of narrowed it down and was like, okay, I'm focusing on you. This is where I'm available here, and I'm letting these go. Because they don't feel like a match necessarily. So that's how that worked. But I don't, yeah, I wouldn't say I try to drag out dating multiple guys at once, because for me, it's just like, it's less confusing for my mind and more confusing just for like my body. My body's just like, I just want to kind of let that go and just be available for one person. That's just me though.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Yeah.
Well, I asked because I haven't quite figured that out yet. It's one of the questions that I'm still
Mm,
discovering for myself in this space.
yeah.
Historically, I liked juggling and I had good reason for it. And that was time. And I had more time then to dedicate to just going on dates and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I liked having the comparison of like, okay, well, I like this from this guy and this from this guy. And naturally, exactly as you said, one would drop away and then the other one would drop away. And then the one I was left with, I felt good about because I kind of was going through that. Okay, I've kind of been in the pool and I know that you're a good match for me. So that has benefited me in the past. I'm not sure it still does. And that's the part I'm still learning. And I haven't gone on enough dates really to be juggling right now anyway. I just kind of go on some dates and see is where I'm at right now. So right now, I guess I am doing one at a time, but it's not an area of my life I'm dedicating so much time to anyway.
Yeah. You made a
Yeah.
good point about time. Like, honestly, that now that I think about it, like, I don't have energy or time for that. Like, I've got so much going on
Yeah.
in my life. So to date more than one person would just be like, yeah, I can't. And for me, I like to dedicate, if I'm going to dedicate to somebody, it's like, I want them to have me, like my
Yeah.
full me, not like half of me or divided attention, So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be curious to see what you discover, Michael. It'll be nice to watch you evolve and see how you grow through this.
I'll keep y'all informed, and we'll be doing more episodes on dating in the future, so the audience can follow us on the journey.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about how we can incorporate some of these courting practices in dating for the modern world, including apps. So, instead of just deleting your apps, which I'm fine with, by the way, but for people out there, I hear this a lot from people who live in rural areas who don't have any other way to really engage with gay men. The apps are the way. And so for people like them who really want to stay on the apps or have good reason to, what might be some ways to incorporate courting practices in that kind of environment, and or just in general, what are some of your favorite courting practices?
So I think consent is probably the step one. Courting without consent is likely stalking. So make
Good
sure the
call.
person you're courting is
Good
like
call. Yeah.
2 thumbs up, they're ready to be courted.
They know they're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, they know they're doing it. Yeah. Yeah, there's this thing around like slowing down. It's just, I think it came up in the last episode we did around first dates, and then this one, it's like slowing down and really getting clear about what it is that you're wanting, taking an interest in what the other person's wanting, making sure that there's this, like, again, consent, and there's this alignment in like, yes, I want to be courted. I'm wanting to court you. If you're somebody that wants to be courted, communicating that, like, if I meet a guy, like, I'll probably say, yeah, I like being courted. I like this energy around leading and following. So it's very, very rare in my life that I follow. I'm always leading. So I'm kind of like, I'd like to be, in the bedroom, for example. It's kind of nice to like be a little bit more submissive and not have to be in the dominant role of leadership. And so I like that. So for me, it would be like communicating that. Like, I want somebody that is more in that masculine doing energy of like being a leader or being more present and these sorts of qualities. So it's dancing. It's dancing with that. And I want to point this out too. So if courting for me is related to pursuing, I think that there's going to be this aspect of pursuing in the relationship as well. So let's say somebody courts me early stages, they get me into the relationship, and I'm like, yes, let's do this. And then maybe throughout the relationship that shifts, right? That so I could become a courter. in the relationship as it's going on, as the relationship evolves. Maybe there becomes a bit of distance in the relationship as you're moving through some challenges. And then it's like, okay, now I'm going to court you and bring you back into the relationship in this safe, loving way. So I think always kind of looking at it as like leading and following. And I don't think in a relationship there's always going to be an exact balance of two people leading the way. I think there's always going to be, leading, following in different aspects. So that's important. I would say it requires a lot of curiosity to court, asking a lot of questions, taking an interest in somebody, making them feel special. Yeah. And then I put down here talking about and planning a future with the person. So somebody that's courting me, they're courting me into something, right? Into something that they have a vision for the future. So communicating your vision for what it is you're courting them into, right? Like, oh, I want to get married, or I want to have kids, or let's get a dog together and live on an acreage and, grow our own food and these sorts of things. Like I want to be courted into a vision, I think for me. But I also want to be part of the co-creation of that vision too. But it's like, I want somebody to say like, yes, let's do this together. Let's now co-create it together. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's everything that I wanted to share. Yeah.
I love that. And this is just a guess, but I'm going to assume here and make a little generalization. So I'm probably going to get in trouble. But I would guess that the guys who would be more willing and capable of doing that, Matt, and I'm noticing this myself too, are older because they know what they want and they're not afraid to communicate it, and they have the vision and they know
Yeah.
themselves. That's just a hunch.
Yeah, usually I'm not usually attracted to younger men. I'm usually attracted to same age or older, usually. Yeah. Yeah.
See, I'm attracted to younger men when I am, and this is why I said like I'm quite versatile, erring on the side of like probably more feminine. It'd be like 60-40 or even like maybe 80-20. Like, I'm more feminine than masculine, so to speak. And so that applies in the bedroom as well. But what's interesting is when it comes to someone who's younger than me, this isn't always the case, but I think it's more the case when they're younger, is like this sort of directional, like courting, pursuing energy kind of comes in. And I'm more like a panther, like I'm like locked in and I'm pursuing them. So it does happen. But certainly my preference is to be on the receiving end of courtship. And I think that might be part of the reason why I've often fancied someone who's a bit older than me. But I like balance. It's important to me that that they also feel that there's a reciprocity in whatever way that looks like. But I don't want them to just feel like, they're doing everything and I'm doing nothing, so to speak. Like that, I'm not into that. But what I was gonna say with respect to the question, I think the first thing that comes up, because I had a little bit of trouble with this question and courtship as a theme, surprisingly, because I said a lot. It's like interesting. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna say, but court yourself, like that was like, again, slow down and take a moment to court yourself. Like, and I guess what I mean by that is, if courtship were a practice of setting your sights on someone you might perceive to be of value or worth investing in, and then sort of filtering them, then why not take that same energy first and turn it inward, and become someone of value and start to discover yourself and explore yourself, through that same filter. Because I think that what it does is it gives you a sense of what's important to you and what to prioritize and what's not, and what to not prioritize. prioritize. Whether you're being courted or you're courting, there's value in starting with courting yourself, I think. Yeah, so that's what I would say, like start there. And then is there anything else? I think, I mean, honestly, the only other thing I would say at this point is like just loosen up a little bit. Like just loosen up a little bit. Like it's it's like serious business in some ways. You're exploring investing in a person for an extended period of time. You're exploring a life partner. It's like one of the most important decisions you can make. And also like, lighten up a bit. Like it's, that too. Like there's something sexy about someone who's like focused but also playful. I like if we're in the bedroom and you're topping and I'm bottoming, it's like, yeah, I want you to be like focused and in the game, right? Like that's hot. But also like loosen up, like laugh a little, have a bit of fun. If you fuck up, like roll with it, have a good time, So I think that's important. Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Matt, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Well, I just wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
are you, this is for Michael, are you more, so if you had to choose between being the courter or the courtee, what would you choose?
Yeah, these days, well, both, but I'm more comfortable these days being the courter. I think because of what Reno just said about courting myself, I didn't know I was doing that, but I was like just getting to know myself and all that. I think I'm a lot more comfortable. Like I said in that previous episode, the story about the guy who was late for our date, like here's what's happening. Like these like the dating, if you want to call dating a game, like I'm making my rules now and these are the rules and that's that. So I'm more comfortable and I'm more confident, I think, being the quarter. Also, I tend to go for younger guys. I skew younger, so I think, I don't know, I enjoy that role more now than I used to, but I like both. If someone wanted to court me, if you're listening, honey, I'm all for it. You know where to find me.
How old was the guy that you went on a date with just recently?
33.
Okay, yeah, so a little bit younger.
Yeah, like 7 years younger. Yeah.
Well, and you just, what I'll say is you upped your value. Like I noticed someone who's insecurely dating, they're like, oh my God, I could never say that. I could never do that. But what you've just done by expressing your boundaries and being clear is you just upped your value. That's how I see it.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
Yeah. Actually, this is a great segue. One of how we ended up on this date. We had been flirting on Instagram for a while and sending each other some sexy photos here and there. And I thought, okay, well, I want to meet this guy in person. And so we had talked about meeting up sometime. And we were going to do it. And I was like, you know what? And I sent him a text saying, listen, I definitely want to do all the things we said we were going to do to each other in DMs, but I actually really want to get to know you. Similar to that story I told you about the guy in PV. Same thing. It's like, yes, I'm attracted to you. I definitely want to get in your pants for sure. But what I want to do first is actually go on a date with you. And I said, I don't want to have sex when we meet. I want to just go somewhere and get to know you, a quiet place, and talk. Like you seem interesting to me. I just want to learn more about who you are. And so he loved that answer. He's like, oh my God, that's great. Same thing the other guy said in PV, like that's a great offer. And so that's what we did, and we went on the date, and we didn't have sex, and it was somewhere we went on to a nice hotel, and sorry, hotel bar, not a hotel room, let me be clear. And so that's what happened. So one of the things I would say, a practical tip for anyone who wants to slow down the process, if you're anything like me, I want to have sex real quick. So what I've told myself is if there's someone that I've met that I am genuinely interested in, I will just not do that on the first date. Even if I want to, I'll just say, you know what, I'm just like, let's just hold off. We've got time. And what's great and what I've learned is that attraction actually builds.
Yes.
We go on one date, there's more attraction. We go on a second date, there's more attraction. And it's a simmering, like savory thing that just is like building up within me. And it just makes it so much better if that comes to a very sexy climax down the road.
Yeah. The best sex I've ever had in my life was when there was sexual tension that was built.
Yes, that tension. Exactly. Right? Yeah.
So I'll reflect the model to you. So it sounds like you want the know before you have the touch. So you want to get to know somebody in this story that you're telling. right?
Yes.
So it
Yes.
makes it more meaningful for you when you're dating somebody to have the no and then have the touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, keep in mind that's not always the case. There are times where I'm totally okay with having a hookup, but in that case, I wouldn't want to necessarily continue getting to know the guy. So I could have the touch without the no, but if it's
Mhm.
someone that for whatever reason I'm drawn to, then I'll stop and say no, I'd rather get to know you first because it just makes it so much better.
Yeah.
Wait, can I ask both of you a question?
Yeah,
Do you want to get married one day?
I'm open to it.
Hell yes.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, okay.
yeah.
I'm like that little girl that's been dreaming about it since like
Yeah.
seriously.
I would
Yeah.
say it's not about like a wedding for me. It's more about like I want the man who's going to grow old with me by my side. I want that, whether it's marriage or not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want the wedding.
you want the wedding. Yeah, I don't need the wedding.
Well, I want the
I,
wedding, but I want that. Like that's so I you can have the growing old together without the marriage. Like I don't need the
Yeah,
church or the state to say like you can grow old together now, but
right.
I want that one special day that it's
Yeah,
like you can remember and you can, like I don't know. And it won't be like traditionally like how, you see heterosexual people's weddings. It won't be like that. It'll be my very own spin on it, like my own traditions, that sort of thing. But yeah, I
totally.
definitely want to
okay,
do that.
do you guys know Sean T at Insanity Fitness? Okay, so Sean T, he's like him and Scott are a couple and they're married and they have two kids together and they're so friggin' cute. And like that's goals for me. They
Mm.
like go on vacation together. They take these like sexy selfies and they're like speedos when they're on vacation. They're having the most fun. And then also they're just these stellar parents and this like stellar couple. And I see them and I'm like, oh my God, that like I want that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
Do you want to get married? You didn't
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we all want to get married. What
Yeah.
about kids?
Maybe with the right guy. If we both want it, yes. I'm not attached to it though. I'm also not attached to getting married, but I do want like something like
yeah.
a celebration of our love.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm open to that. In fact, there's a guy that I like who already has kids, and I'm like,
Hot.
can I be a stepdad? I'm like, oh, I'd love to be a
Daddy
stepdad.
Michael.
That'd be fun. I have a stepdad myself, and I'm like, so I get that, and I think
Oh,
it's a beautiful thing, and like even without having my own kids, I think I'd make a great stepdad. So if you're
yeah,
out
you
there,
would. Yeah. You both would make great fathers, I think. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
would you.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right,
Uh,
guys.
Last question I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
ask is do on a first date, I wanted to ask this last episode and when we did first dates, but kiss on a first date, yes or no?
yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, but like it has to be organic and it has to be like yeah,
Mhm.
don't force it. I'm happy with a kiss on the cheek. I'm happy with a hug. If you shake my hand, where I even if there was chemistry, I might not see you again unless you're like, sorry, that was really awkward. I didn't mean to shake your hand. Don't shake my hand. Hug me.
A fist bump.
Yeah. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Fist bump. Like what about you?
Typically no. Yeah, I would reserve touch for later on, so date 2, 3, that sort of thing. But yeah, first dates, like I wouldn't want to be swapping
Hug
saliva.
though? Hug,
Yeah.
handshake?
Yeah, hug. Oh, for sure. And
Okay,
even a kiss on
okay.
the cheek or
Just
something,
no
but
kiss.
just like tongue and
Yeah.
saliva and stuff,
Yeah.
like when I don't really know them that well, it just feels like a little bit much. But
Yeah.
I love kissing so much, and
so
I
do
can learn
I.
so much from a kiss.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, so I'm totally for it. I wouldn't necessarily make like I don't have to have it happen. If I waited, then I would just again it would build up that climax for wanting it the next time.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with it for sure. If he leans in for a kiss or if that happens, that's totally fine with me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Kiss is everything. It's such
Yeah,
it's such an arousal and attraction thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it can be a deal breaker for sure if it's not the right rhythm and all that. Yeah.
I was at the Black Eagle last weekend. This guy does not listen to the podcast, so I can say the story. I'm not gonna say his name though.
Mhm.
And I was doing a little dance floor makeout, which I love. And we had such great kiss chemistry. Like he was obviously a cute guy, and we had such great kiss chemistry. He said to me, he's like, I haven't had a kiss like that in years. What do you, we had just got there. It was like midnight. He's like, what do you say we just like call it a night and go back to my place? And I'm like, fuck yes, absolutely. Let's totally do that. And we did. And that night we didn't even have sex, but we did lots of other things. But it was so nice to just make out with somebody and like have that one-on-one. And yes, we met at a bar and whatnot. But I thought, what am I going to do? Stay here and just make out with like 4 more, 5 more, 6 more people, like what's the point? I've already found one that I like, and he's cute and he's really nice, and we have that great kiss chemistry. So we just
Yeah.
explored that kiss chemistry all night long. That was great.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
All right, on that note, I'm hot and bothered here. Anything else to add, boys?
No, I feel complete.
All right. Okay, for our audience, thank you for joining us on this episode about courtship. We hope we have given you a little bit of incentive and ideas for your dating strategies and your dating approach. I want to thank you for joining us. For Matt and Reno, thank you for your insights and wisdom and stories. As always, you guys make me laugh. For those of you who are listening and want to continue this conversation and have the exact conversation we just had in this similar format, join us in our connection circles on the second Thursday of the month. That's where we put you guys in little pods of 3, just like this. We give you some questions, and then you get to have the same kinds of discussions with other guys in the community. Go to gaymansbrotherhood.com and then to our events page to get the information there. If you're listening to us on a podcast provider, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. Helps us get into the eyes and ears of people who need us. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and leave some comments in the chat there or in the comments box. Let us know what you think about courting and dating. All right, guys, thank you so much, and see you next week. Bye-bye.